Welcome to Heal the World Show podcast, brought to you by the Healing Institute. I'm Pramelia Parham, and I'm the founder and the CEO of the Healing Institute. And what is that, you might wonder? Well, we are an online worldwide hub of holistic practitioners, and we are wanting to give people hope. We want people to know there are alternative ways to be well and stay well on their health journey. And we are creating a proactive wellness society. I think we've been a reactive illness society for way too long. So it's time to shift that up. And so that's why I designed the Healing Institute, because I'm really passionate about educating people about the different ways that they can be well and stay well on their health journey. I've personally studied healing and wellness myself and used alternative ways for over 20 years. So I know that it works. And you might ask why this is important to me. Well, we did have a tragedy in our family a few years ago where my mom passed away at a very young age. She was only 61. And it was due to complications from a medication that she had been on for a long time. And the complications of that medication created kidney failure. Now, this happened right before Christmas. I was pregnant with my son, my first child. And it was not only a tragedy that she passed away at such a young age, but also that my children never got to meet their grandmother. And I really, really don't want those kinds of stories to happen for other people. So that's my why. So every Friday morning on Heal the World Show, I invite a guest co-host to come and talk about their area of expertise. And I'm really, really excited today for Mark Carolyn to be with us. Mark Carolyn is a transformational life and executive coach and a TEDx speaker. So we're going to delve into talking about work-life balance, because I know this is a topic right close to Mark's heart. And he's also a father of two daughters. And so it is sometimes a juggle on work-life balance. So we're going to talk about that. This month, June, has been Men's Health Month. So I have just been, it's been wonderful. This is, of course, the last Friday of June, but all the Fridays of June, we've been able to have these fabulous conversations with men about men's health. So welcome, Mark. I'm so happy for you to be here. We've known each other a little while, and so I'm so happy you were able to be available for today.
I'm delighted to be here, Pramelia. Thank you very much for a lovely introduction as well. Yeah, we have known each other a while. We've had some very interesting conversations over the last number of years.
So tell our audience, they would like to know just a little bit about how you, as an executive coach and as a transformational coach, and obviously you have clients that you are guiding through coaching. What are some of the things that you do personally for work-life balance?
It's a big question to start off with, Pramelia, you know. But first of all, I would like to say that work-life balance doesn't exist. It's a myth. It's this idea that we should have, I should have 50% work and 50% life. Life doesn't work like that. And we all know it doesn't work like that. And then trying to make it work like that is where we get our problems and our challenges. Having expectations about, I've worked for 10 hours today, therefore I expect that I should be able to do this, and it doesn't work out, and we cause ourselves more frustration and those kind of things. For me, if we want to go work-life balance, it is all about priorities. It's how you prioritize. What is the most important thing to you? And sometimes work is the priority. Sometimes it is the priority. But if it's the priority every single time, that's not balance.
No.
And if life is a priority every single time, that's great if you can do that without the work, but then you can struggle for the balance in that too. So it's all about priority. So for me, that's what I've learned an awful lot. Like, you know, so I would be reasonably structured in how I would live to a certain extent. Like my mornings, I would get up early every morning. I get up about 5:30, and I would usually do some Qigong meditation, and I go to the gym, or I might go for a swim, and I'd be home, and I do a bit of LinkedIn online and these kind of things. So I do my stuff in the morning, and that's that part of my balance. I get my kids up to go to school, do a bit of online LinkedIn in the morning when my Irish audience is up. And then when everyone's gone to school and I've done a little bit of LinkedIn, I sit down at 8:45 every morning for Amelia, and I have a cup of tea and I read a book for 20 minutes. And that's a little bit of balance. And you know what? That I actually want to talk about that, because that's something that I found is one of the most incredible things I have in my life, and what it gives me. Because one day I realized I've always been a big reader, and I'd always like take that time out. And somehow it slipped out of my schedule. It was always in my schedule in this working from home work. It slipped out. And I was like, what am I not doing that? And to take that 15 minutes where suddenly you put away the phone, all the mayhem is gone, and you just spend 15 minutes in your own little space, de-stressing and moving between one space and the next space before you start your day properly, and nearly start another day properly. It's amazing how these little habits are so good for us.
I totally agree with you 200%. I have a very, I have a morning routine as well. And I do a yoga meditation, and I get my yoga mat out first thing and do that. And then I make my tea and then I do some reading. And I like to start my day like that, just getting into the day without looking at the phone, without looking at email, without, all of the distractions that we have and things that we need to do as entrepreneurs and be part of those things. Obviously, we need to have all of that in our life. But it makes such a difference to take that time.
Well, we lose ourselves so easily, Parmelia. If for all of us, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working for a company, working for someone, we all have our phones, and most of us have access to what's going on in our business, in our working world through our phone. And if you have a habit of waking up in the morning and the first thing is, you reach over with that groggy head and you look at your phone, you start seeing your email, checking your emails, what is that going to do to your day? What is that? And I know, because I worked in the corporate world for 20 something years, Parmelia, and I know I would reach over and I would pick up that phone, and straight away I was getting annoyed by this email and getting annoyed and frustrated by this email, and suddenly this.
And you're not even out of bed yet.
You haven't even brushed your teeth, and here you are already stressed and annoyed about what's coming. And okay, so people say, oh yeah, but I need to know. Do you need to know before you get out of bed? Do you need to know before you can go and do a bit of yoga or do something? Just even stand outside in your bare feet in the grass and spend a couple of seconds connecting into the world before, because the world will get in on top of you. Yes, it does. And the mayhem has to come, and you have to deal with the challenges as they arise. But you don't need to do it unaided. You can set yourself up right for your day so that you get going. And when you talk about work-life balance, there's the balance. The balance is making sure you have something that brings you back to yourself all the time. It doesn't mean you're constantly caught up in the grind.
Yes. And I love that phrase. I know that was part of your TED Talk, coming back to yourself. I had never heard that phrase before until you said it. But it makes so much sense, because really that's our authenticity, right?
Yeah.
That is standing in who we are, specifically who we are, not trying to be somebody else, not trying to be, what. And I was in the corporate world for many years, like you. So you allow, I think we allow sometimes other people's expectations of us to take over. And then we are becoming what they want us to be, not who we are. So give us a little more explanation about that phrase, because I love that phrase.
Well, that's kind of the phrase that kind of guides my philosophy of what coaching is. So coming home to yourself. Now, the TEDx I gave was titled "The Magic of Being Yourself," because I was conscious that coming home to yourself, that needs a bit of explanation. Where the magic of being yourself, people think, oh God, I think I know what that means, and can jump into it straight away. And where it even so people will come to me from an executive coaching perspective, and you're CEO, you're an MD, or you're running your company, and you've got all these problems, all these stresses. People will come to me from a life coaching perspective, going, yeah, look, I'm struggling with this, I've no purpose, I've no meaning. It all boils back down to the same kind of thing. We've lost the run of ourselves. We've lost who we are along the way. Expectations are a massive part of it. Trying to please others, thinking that this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're chasing money. We're chasing whatever it is, because maybe that will make me happy, or maybe this will make me happy. Oh wait, no, I know that'll make me happy. If I get that'll make me happy. None of these things can make us happy. Nothing can make us happy until we can learn to be happy now. And the only way we can be happy now is when we learn to be who we really are. I've had this conversation with people, and I say, I don't mean it and I don't know people's political allegiances, but I don't mean it in a Donald Trump way that be yourself. I mean it in a way that you're authentic. You're authentically true as a human being. You know who you are, and it means that no matter what anyone else does, you're not offended by anyone else, because whatever they are who they are, and they're what they're doing. You know who you are, and you're comfortable in your skin. So there's no need to defend yourself against the world anymore, because you're going, you know what, I'm fine. And how I would really put it is, you know, we spend our time and we're always trying to squeeze ourselves into this world, you know, and fit into it. And the world will crush us as we squeeze ourselves into it, because we're trying to be what everyone else is and do what everyone else is doing. But that's not who we are. The thing we need to do is we need to take that step back and examine the world and look at what the world is and examine who we are. And then we build a world out from who we are. So instead of trying to fit in, we build a world that works for us. And there's when we find ourselves into the right space.
Absolutely. And, you and I, have done lots of introspection and read lots of books. But for people that are just starting to wake up, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term, but just their consciousness is now, they're starting to have some thoughts that maybe, what they're doing right now, they're not happy, or maybe there is a different way of living. And so guiding people to their authentic self. I know, many years ago, I had read a book about purpose. Now, I was a wife and a mother at the time. My children were young. I thought that was my purpose.
Yeah.
I also had a corporate job. So I thought those three things were my purpose. It wasn't until I read that book that I realized I personally could have a purpose. And what would that be if I was going to explore that? So when you talk about that phrase about coming back to who you are, I kind of think about that definitely as being authentic, and also having sort of that inner curiosity, for want of a better word, of what you might want to be. So give us some ideas as how you guide your clients when they're looking, when they're curious and they're starting to look.
Curious is a fantastic thing to have. It's a fantastic approach to this life, because when we're curious, we're open. Things are possible. When we remove curiosity, well then, when we're in a fixed mindset, nothing can happen, nothing can change. And we know that nothing can happen, nothing can change. So look, from different examples, like I was working with a guy there recently, and he contacted me because he was stressed out. His job was driving him crazy. He was frustrated, angry all the time. His relationship was breaking apart with his wife. He didn't have any time for friends or kids or for himself. And so we sat down and started going, well, what's really going on for you? Why are you where you are now? Like, awareness is the key. Once we start raising the awareness of what's going on. And for him, he used to love his job. And he loved what he did. His job used to be a lot of presenting, a lot of people management, problem solving, all these kind of things are what his job used to have. And now his job had evolved without him kind of realizing it, because the company had gone through rapid change and his job had just kind of grown and grown and grown. And now he was in charge of projects and offshoring stuff and stuff that didn't really interest him. And he didn't realize how much that change had impacted him. But he didn't realize what really mattered to him. And it was a matter of figuring out, well, where are your values? What matters to you? Where do your values lie? And for him, his value lay in people, in connection, in being open, in having that human connection all the time, which is what he got love out of from doing work. And so when we started to go, right, let's bring this back into your life, he started speaking to his own boss about engineering his job into a different role, into a different way, started making these changes, and suddenly he started to live more in line with his values. And when you do that, and you're living in line with your values, you find that sense of meaning and sense of purpose much more naturally in your life, because it's there for you once you start doing that. I'll give you another example of a lady I was working with, and she was around about 30 years old, and she had no confidence, couldn't do anything on her own, was really struggling with how to be in the world. And we just started on the basic things, trying to go for, and I do this with an awful lot of people, I get them to go for a cup of coffee on their own. Just sit on their own with a cup of coffee. Because a lot of people can't sit on their own. And if you can't sit on your own, that's telling you something. If you need to be distracted, or you feel people are looking at you, feel, okay, what's that telling you? What's that really about? Where is all that judgment coming in? Who's really judging you? Because my experience of humans is, when we think people are thinking about us, really, they're just thinking about what we're thinking about them.
Yes.
Nobody's actually thinking about anybody else. We're all just thinking what people might be thinking about us because we're creating the judgment in our own head. And we're such strange and fascinating creatures for that. But it's the little things. When we put ourselves into the world a little bit more. And she went to this road. Then she went to the cinema on her own. And then she went to a museum and she started doing these little things to kind of find herself in the space, to allow herself to be and not be restricted by what it is. And we really worked hard on our mindset all the time, because an awful lot of this stuff is our perception and our mindset, Pramelia. Like for how we can be our authentic self is because we allow ourselves to grow. We grow into our authentic self. Like, the glass is half full or the glass is half empty is a perfect example of it. I would argue that it's neither. It's a glass. There's water in it. Let it be. It doesn't have to have a measure. We don't have to put good or bad on it. Once we put good or bad on it, we're defining it. We're restricting ourselves because we're putting the good or bad. Because nothing is good or bad, but we just think it into being good or bad. And so this young lady, like, and her mindset was shifting and changing completely. And when we finished working together, she sent me a message just saying, I can't remember the last time I had a negative thought, Mark. My life is in such a different space. And I thought that was lovely. And then at Christmas time, I always would check in on clients, just say, look, happy Christmas and happy holidays, whatever, how you are. And she replied to me, she said, oh, Mark, you won't believe it. I've started going to music festivals on my own. I'm in a relationship now. I've changed job. I'm going, this is amazing. And like, that wasn't my work. My work was where we started. But for me, and this is the most important thing, because once you go on a journey, that journey should not have a full stop. It should not have a stop sign. It goes, oh, I got here, I'm finished. The journey is, you started on this journey now. And so you get to here. And when we've done this right, you keep going, away you go, because you're on your journey now, and you now have the tools, you have the skills, and you now have the mindset to keep you going.
I love that, because I think too often as we're growing up, we're kind of taught, okay, well, we finish school, we get a job, we get married, we have children, and it's kind of finite. Or we think, okay, then once we, get to a certain age, we'll retire from that job, and then we'll be free. Then we'll be able to do whatever we want. Well, that's so not true, because as you mentioned, it's a journey. So we need to enjoy it as we go. And I think that exercise you gave your client to go and have a cup of coffee by herself was perfect. I remember when my first marriage was breaking up, and I had moved to a different city, and I knew a few people. And I started going to movies. You call them cinemas, but I started to go to a movie by myself. The first time I ever did that, it was so hard. Literally, I'm standing in the line. It was summer, so I'm standing in the line to get into the theater, and I'm thinking, all these people are looking at me. All these people know I'm all by myself. And it's like, no, they weren't. They were in their own minds doing whatever they were doing. But that was really powerful. It was really very powerful to start doing things on your own as an individual, and then accepting yourself as that person.
Yeah. And so liberating. It's so liberating to know you can do it, and know that you don't, like, because I think the cinema is an interesting thing too. Like as an activity to go to, because when you go to the cinema, you're not, well, unless you have bad manners, you're not talking anyway. So you are actually doing something together, but solo. So it's an easy thing to just do solo. And I would often go to the cinema. I want to see a film. I know my wife doesn't want to see it. I know my friends probably won't want to go see this. It's an avant-garde, strange film. So I'm going to go see it. I don't care. Like, I want to see this film. But like, it is a journey, this life, Pramelia. And if like, it's a roller coaster, and if you got on a roller coaster and the roller coaster was just on a flat road and just went straight along like that, it wouldn't be much fun, would it? No. It would be a fairly crap roller coaster.
It might be a roller coaster I would like, because I don't like to, but not for life. Yeah,
life is highs and lows, like, and it goes up and it goes down, and it's not what happens to us that counts. It's how we respond to what happens to us. That's the key to us. You touched on something very important there, and I know you mentioned your mother at the start and part of your introduction. So when I switched out of the corporate world, it was about 4 years ago now, and I've been working in the corporate world for 21 years or so, and I knew after 1 week it wasn't for me. But then, as you say, mortgage, kids, you get used to the trappings of a certain life. As unhappy as you are, we're so adaptable as humans. We adapt to situations that don't serve us any longer. And one night I was sitting here, and it was at 11:30 at night. I was still working. I was like, what am I doing? And I just had this epiphany. I just realized, if I don't stop doing this now, this is it for the rest of my life. And that was a frightening thought. And then, then I recall that my father passed away at 57.
Yes,
from
young.
cancer. and very young, like, and because like it's not that much older than I am today, and it dawned on me that he never got to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just thinking, then, is this my future for the rest of my life? Is this just it, like, for however many more years I get? Is this just me doing this job for 12 hours a day for 5 days a week, and then trying to recover from the stress at the weekend and hoping to go away for 2 weeks on holidays and forget about it for 2 weeks? Is that it? Like, and it just suddenly, the fear of not changing became worse than the fear of change. And I knew I had to do something different. I knew I couldn't wait any longer, because it was time. It was suddenly, you got that level of awareness. Like you said, like, life's not waiting for us. You know, like, we can wait and say, oh, I'll do it all when I retire. But why? Why do it all?
And where are the statistics that we know of people who, they do a job? I remember meeting someone a long time ago who had just retired. It was a gentleman, and he finally admitted he hated his job, hated it for like 40 years. He worked at this job that he hated. I thought, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Like, that was kind of started with my awakening of understanding that, hey, we need to be curious, and we need to ask questions, and we need to reevaluate what's going on with us. So many times too, the statistics I'm thinking of are people who do retire and then they have a heart attack and die. So where's the retirement? That it didn't happen for them.
No, and like, that's why we shouldn't ever put off in life what we want to do. We don't wait, because you don't know if another opportunity comes. And we're conditioned to wait. We're conditioned into fear. We're conditioned into protecting ourselves. Like, when we're young, we develop systems and ways of being that protect us in this world. And a lot of that is, oh, I'm not the kind of person who does that, or, I'm not, because therefore, if we say to ourselves, I'm not the kind of person who does that, that's a nice little excuse. That's lovely. We can hide behind that excuse. That's easy. We don't need to worry about it now, and it doesn't serve us. Or even we use, I was going to talk about this week, we use work as an excuse now. Oh, I can't do that because I'm too busy at work. But that's an excuse. If it's a priority, then do it. If it matters to you, then do it. Don't wait, because there is nothing guaranteed. Not a single thing is guaranteed in this life. So we have to learn how to step up and do it when we need to do it. The values piece that you were touching on earlier is so important. And that's the really big starting point, where people don't know. And then when they're thinking about meaning and purpose, and you mentioned, oh, I'm a mother, therefore I have a purpose. And I wouldn't never say that you now don't have a purpose as a mother. You have a purpose in the role as a mother, but that's just a role you're playing. Like, one day your kids will be grown, and you won't be, even though I suppose it's impossible not to be a mother, Pamelia. I understand, I have a mother. It's impossible not to be a mother. And she can't not be a mother. But I also know that that's not her life now. Like, she's not a mother. She doesn't need to be. So if your whole identity is in being a mother, you're in real trouble. If your whole identity is in the job you do, and you get let go for some reason, the company goes into a restructure, does that mean you've lost your identity? Who are you in this point?
Well, and so many people do, right?
Yeah.
They do lose their identity. So many mothers actually do lose their identity when their children leave. They go through a huge transition and a lot of depression, because now they have just attached themselves to that purpose or that role, and it's no longer there.
Yeah.
So it's really important, I believe, what you're saying, that we're looking at that journey of life and adapting ourselves to that journey. I mean, obviously we have some choices to make, and we can direct the journey somewhat as to what we want to do. You and I both have done that by leaving the corporate world and starting our own businesses. And that, it's not an easy task, as we all know and find out. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. But in my heart, I'm so much happier. I would not ever want to go back.
Oh, that's very important too. Like, so, and because we know the truth within ourselves, Pamelia. We are okay. Our brain will lie to us. We can spin all sorts of stories. We've all our limiting beliefs, everything that holds us back in the world. And it's only lying to us because we've taught it. We've trained our brain how to lie to us, but our body can't lie to us.
No.
So, people who I meet someone, and I'll be working with someone and they're stressed to the last and they're about to be burnt out, like, and you can see it in their physical appearance, you can see how they look. And I say, "Are you okay there? Like, maybe you're burnt out." Like, "I don't have time to be burnt out. I'm too busy to be burnt out." Like, okay, we may have a problem here. But your body is always going to tell you the truth. And in your heart, you know what's right by you as well. And when you begin to explore and experiment, become curious as to maybe what else is in life. And look, we're talking about like making a break and going and doing your own thing. Okay, that's not for everyone. And we have to acknowledge that that's not for everyone. So a lot of people, will work and can work away, but they might find their own happiness in that. But then where do you find your happiness? What are you doing? How can you reframe the work? Instead of thinking about the work as going, "Oh God, it's another problem, it's another challenge today." Like a guy I was working with only a couple of weeks ago, and he would think about everything as being a problem. Like everything's a big problem. "Oh, what's the next problem? There's another problem coming. There's another problem coming," and be stressed out at all the problems. We're going, "Well, hold on a second." I said to him, like, "Well, was there problems yesterday?" He goes, "Yeah." "Did you solve it?" "Yeah." "Will there be a problem today?" "Yeah." "Will you solve it?" "Yeah." "Will there be a problem tomorrow?" "Yeah, guaranteed." Okay, so it's just the next problem. It's not all the problems. He's like, "No, that kind of makes sense, that it's just the next problem instead of being everything." And it's just how we frame the stuff in our head.
It is.
So we can shift out of that, like, and we can always find, like, it doesn't mean you have to change your entire world and your entire career, but you can find the good things that are in your life that give you that sense of purpose and meaning that you do. And if that can be as simple as making sure your kids are well looked after and have a roof over their head, because that's a very valid purpose too, if that's what you need it to be. But I think for all of us, the purpose comes in being as much of ourselves as we can be in the world. And we spoke about men a little bit, and I wouldn't mind touching on that for a second, because I think that's one of our biggest challenges.
I was going to ask, from a man's point of view, and the men that you work with, how receptive usually are men to accepting that they are now able to be more introspective and find out what's really going on with them.
Well, I'll tell you how receptive they are. I have given talks in companies on vulnerability and the power of vulnerability. It's specifically for the men in the group and the power of vulnerability. So I've been in an organization that might have 100 men working there. I'll get 5 at the talk. So there's an indication of how receptive, because men do not want to sit around in a room where somebody's going to talk about vulnerability. Now, I'm the one who's vulnerable. Now, I have to be honest with you, the very first time they gave this talk about 2 years ago, I was supposed to give it on a Monday morning, and I spent the entire weekend working on the talk. And first thing Monday morning, I got a call from the organizers, and they said, "Listen, something's come up. We've got an issue here. Do you mind if we push this out by a week, because we can't do it this week?" And I was like, "Thank God," because I knew the talk was terrible. I knew it was rubbish. I knew it wasn't right. Like, there was loads of information in the talk, but there was only information. And I was like, "There's something missing here." And then I looked at it, and I said, "You know what's missing? I'm not in it. I am not vulnerable in this talk. There's no vulnerability. There's just information about what vulnerability is." So I got a chance to rewrite and to put myself right into it. And so I was able to kind of demonstrate the situations where, by not being vulnerable, where I was manning up, or I was wearing my armor and holding myself back, and talking about how us as men, we're so much worried about the shame cycle and trying to avoid shame, and what that does to us in the long run, and how, when we learn how to communicate, what a difference that makes. And so for an awful lot of men in the coaching space from Amelia, they will say to me, like, "Oh my God, I've never said that to anyone. And, I've never told my partner."
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
All the time, because they've never felt in such a place where they're safe enough to actually speak.
Yeah. So important.
That's
so important, because, and as you know, the work that I do with body code and emotion code. So if you're keeping all of those emotions trapped in your body, it's going to have a result physically. And it's gonna manifest in something physical going on with you. And that's usually when something's not right, is when you have a discomfort of some kind physically. Then you're like, "Oh, well, now I need to examine it." But oftentimes it's because of all of those emotions that have been suppressed, and also people haven't accepted that this emotion of vulnerability, or this emotion of anger, or this emotion of being in despair. They just haven't accepted that could actually have an impact on their health. We haven't correlated emotions until recently. The new math or the new science that's out there is correlating our emotions and our brain and what's going on with that.
Yeah, and there's such a need. Men in particular, we've suppressed these emotions for so long. Like we have two emotions. We've got anger or contentment. That's it. We don't like. I don't need an emotion outside of those scales, but it's not true.
I don't have time for those emotions.
No. And like, look what anger does to us when we hold on to an emotion like anger.
Yeah.
Like, it's so destructive. Like, it has its place. Like, every emotion is information. It's all information. But if you hold on to an emotion, and I was on a different LinkedIn live last night, and the point of the whole thing was letting go, and the value in letting go, and how dangerous it is to hold on to things, and how liberating it is to let go. Because these emotions, if we finally feel them, we can't hold them though. We have to go, oh God, I've experienced that, and then I can let it go. But the vulnerability is something that scares us, because of that shame cycle, because we're afraid of being thought of as less, we're afraid of being thought of as weak. But vulnerability, and I'll quote Brené Brown on this, vulnerability is courage. Vulnerability takes strength.
Very much.
Courage needs strength. So it's anything except weakness to be vulnerable. And now you can't risk being too vulnerable in the wrong situation. But like, from a leader's perspective, the more, like, vulnerability is key from a leadership perspective. I learned that as a leader in business a long time ago, because if you want to connect with people and you want people to trust you and you want to bring them along, that old style of dictatorial leadership, you do what I do now and you don't ask any questions and just listen to me, it's gone. We've moved past that. People need to connect with the person that they're leading, and not the more vulnerable you can be. The more vulnerable you can be with yourself means the more authentic you can be, and that allows you then to be a better leader and to be a better person in the world.
I love this. We are out of time, but we could definitely go on and on this subject. Thank you so much, Mark. This is just delightful. So I was just running the ticker tape for people to get in touch with you. There's your email and also your LinkedIn connection, how to find you in LinkedIn on your profile. And just so people who are listening, sometimes we don't always get everybody in the chat. And Mark and I will actually go into the event after we're finished here, and we will comment on any of the comments and answer any of your questions if you've had any questions as well. Later today, I'm still in the morning here on the west coast of Canada, but sometime in this afternoon, I will send out a replay of today's show. And so again, oftentimes we get more comments and people engaging with what the topic of the show was. So we'll definitely do that. So I'm just so delighted that you were able to pop on today, Mark, as a transformational life and executive coach. And I know I watched your TEDx speech, which was just absolutely amazing. Very much inspired me. It's on my bucket list to do a TEDx at some point. So we, our vision with the Healing Institute is really to create a community for people, both practitioners and people that are looking for alternative ways to be well. And we really want to serve that community. Our motto is service with love. And we love to have people like Mark on our show and talking about their areas of expertise and their clients and how their clients benefit from working with them. So we have a big ask, we're out to heal the world. So please share this podcast with people, with your community, with your family, with your friends. Let people know that we're available. We have amazing, amazing holistic practitioners on the Healing Institute that are available for you to help you on your health journey. Any last comments you'd like to make, Mark?
Something I was reading this morning, actually, somebody had a LinkedIn post on a Friday, and they just asked people at the bottom of it to post a comment or just a thought or stuff. And it was just something I was reading this morning. And it was just that we are not here to impress others. We are here to find a way to make ourselves happy in this life.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you. It's a good one.
Lovely to be here, Pamelia. Thank you.
All right. So we will see you next Friday on Heal the World Show, and have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. All right. Thank you.